the saddle stitching saga. This time we're introducing the handle attachments to the bag through stitching, saddle stitching. So I'm just waxing the thread a little bit to make stitching easier. Help to waterproof the thread, making it last a little bit longer. So once we've added it, removing excess wax and kind of melting it in with a bit of friction. Welcome everybody joining. So just sticking the thread on the needle. I'm doing 3 little locks here. Hope you're all doing well. One, 2, 3. Cool. I'll bring it back over here a little bit actually. Mahmoud says hi, hello. Hello from Greenland. Says, I'm going to say, is that pronounced Van? I assume the G is silent. Apologies if it's not. So saddle stitching this in with an awl, doing a cast because this is a glue-in lining, so we'll be seeing the inside stitching. I may have accidentally pulled a thread there. Oh no, I didn't. Close enough. Hello from Azerbaijan. Hello. Now that is far away. Hope it's not too hot over there right now. It's a warm day here. I think it was 26 in here. I think it was about 24, 25. That's good for me. I like that. In the early 20s. We're talking degrees Celsius. That's comfortable, you know. You're not sweating. You can wear clothes okay, and the evenings are cool. That's good for me. I am a bit weird. I'm not a huge fan of hot weather unless I'm next to a beach where I can get it, or a pool. Luckily, it hasn't been too hot in here. There are days where it's over 30 degrees in here, and you know, there's no breeze inside the workshop. It does get a bit much. So anyone watching, what kind of projects are you working on at the moment? Is there anybody that's doing some interesting leathercraft? Wallets, bags, belts, accessories, anything like that that anyone is working on? And if anyone does have any questions, feel free to put them through. No problem. I'm just kind of feeling my way through on the back end. So I'm kind of using my awl blade, and I've mentioned this before in other lives, to place my needle behind the awl blade. And as I pull the awl out, the needle kind of chases it through. And then I just wrap it over. And occasionally, if it feels a bit weird, like then, it's a good example actually. Yeah. Then, yeah, I was about to double cast that. Then I'll peer my head around for just kind of like that, just to double check. So what I'm going to do actually, I've got little fan. I might turn that on. With these video lights up here, it does get a bit warm. I can't tell, but if that fan is making the microphone do some weird noises, let me know. Apologies. A little hay fever, unfortunately. Not terrible today. Last few days have been horrendous. Grass pollen season, unfortunately. So stats on this, what I'm doing here. Filet chinois, 432. Off-white linen thread, and stitch spacing is 3.85, so a little larger, a little more chunky, which I think looks quite nice on this bag. It's a good compromise, to be fair, with regards to stitch speed and strength. The larger stitch spacing being a little bit stronger. And this is going through vegetable tanned leather. The fabric underneath, which in this case is Harris tweed, which is a very durable wool fabric. And we have a layer on the inside for body, which this is all being stitched to, which is a chrome tan leather. And it gives it a nicer, it gives the fabric a nicer hand feel, but it's a direct glue on, something that we haven't really done in the masterclass. When it comes to bag making, wallet making, it's kind of standard practice, exterior and interior connected through glue. But in bag making, it's not seen quite as often. I'll let these relax a little bit. Let them unravel. So we don't build up any twist as we're going along. And now the bag base has been stitched in, which is this long piece that you might just be able to see in the corner of your screen there. These ones are shorter seams, a little bit quicker, but we have 4 straps in total. So that's going to be 8 seams. So it's not a small amount of stitching. But I do like the long straps that lead down to the bag base. And they get sewn into the bag base as well. So it's a very strong setup. Unlike the chaps, C-H-A-P-E-S, that sometimes get stitched in where you attach your handles to. These actually give a bit more stiffness and help the bag maintain shape. And they also transfer stress down to the bag base when you're carrying a heavy load. So it's not kind of warping or deforming the body or the panels, which can happen unless you have a decent stout reinforcement glued directly to the exterior on the inside between the lining. So in this case, it kind of bypasses all that and gives a bit more body and structure. I also think it looks quite nice too. We've done both ways with the the de Havilland travel bag, and now this. I do like the full handle attachments, but the downside is it takes a little bit longer to stitch them in. Bob Z, howdy from Texas, USA. How you doing, my friend? Good to see you again. Thank you for joining in the conversation. A nice tight stitch on this. On the inside, we've got chrome tan leather, which is, an order of magnitude softer than solid vegetable tan leather, which I'm stitching here on the outside. And we give it a reasonable amount of tension, not an over amount, but enough tension that it sinks in a little bit on the front side, but on the inside, where it will be rubbing against, obviously, the contents of your bag, it sinks away from the surface and pulls in quite nicely, avoiding any excess wear. So I'm now stitching into the turnover, so it's starting to get a lot thicker here, because the turnover actually comes right down to here, where the leather goes back on itself and skives down into a taper for strength. It's a little bit harder to push through, and what I'm coming up against now is the buckle. This is a double-sided buckle. I forget the exact name of these buckles now, but essentially it avoids having to add a keeper, because you've got the front of the buckle here, and then you've got a keeper that's inbuilt into the buckle. These are solid brass. There's one less thing to have to add. And now what I'm going to have to do is remove this little clamp. Undo there, move it over here. So I can kind of bend this around a little bit. now I've done that, actually we can do one more from this side. And then I'll need to transfer the thread to the other side of the buckle so as not to get the buckle tangled up. So now I can take my needle, I can just kind of like push it through. Or drop it, one of the two. So now it's through on the inside of the buckle, and I can kind of carry on. You're going to come through. So I'm navigating the buckle and going through multiple layers. At the top there, where it's at its thickest. Good. All right, that's the last stitch. Now I can do some back stitches. I'm going to switch to the round awl here. Do that to the next one. Round awl, I can kind of open the holes up a little bit more. So it's easier like that to put my stitches through. Again, adding a cast, pulling in one side, putting in the other. Good. Now, I'm going to exchange the needle forward again over the top of the buckle. Open up the hole a little bit. I just want to guide that thread so it sits neatly underneath the one that's already in there. Give it a bit of tension. And this last one, so it's kind of like, not quite 3 back stitches, but this third one here just goes in so we can finish the thread on the same side. All these little details. Get a bit of tension. Now I can trim on the back. There we go. So that's one side done here. I'm going to finish off. You can see I've already done this one here, and I've already done the seam coming down here. So we've got one more seam on this side, and then the other side, these haven't been done, so it's got to be symmetrical. So let's get a new piece of thread. I've already pre-cut, actually. Let's put you guys over here. Sorry, don't make you sick. There you go. Going to pull it a few times through the wax block. Just twisting the string with my fingers as I do it, making sure that I'm not applying wax to the same side of the thread, which can happen if you don't twist. And then when you feel all of a sudden it's not rough anymore, it feels like you're not adding any more wax. Oops. Then you can drop it on the floor, get it covered in lint that sticks to the wax. A little floor spice, never hurt anyone. And now, a little bit of tension and a quick pull helps to melt in and just polish that thread. Just helps the stitching process and to preserve the thread long term. Again, as I'm polishing the thread here, I'm twisting with my fingers, twisting, so turn and pull, turn and pull, turn and pull, turn and pull. Again, you can start polishing the same side, which is sometimes when you polish your thread and then you put it through the first hole and then all this wax comes off. It's because you haven't polished all the way around it. All right, so 1, 2, 3. I pre-made the first hole earlier because it's a little challenging to get to. Equalizing up the thread. Double checking before pulling tight. It is slightly off. Pull out a little bit more on this side. Is that accurate? Is that level? Yeah. We are there. Now we can sink that in and continue. Always like to make sure that we have equal thread to begin with. It just makes it a little bit difficult. Sometimes you go to pull your thread out and your shorter side will pull your project first or the other way. It's really annoying. So plus you can only stitch as far as your shortest side, so if you've got just enough thread and it's unequal, you may have problems moving forwards. So on the last video I did when I was stitching in the base, I kept getting a lot of questions asking about, I say a lot, I think it was like 2 or 3 people asking in the comments, what am I using to support the bag? Well, I have, boom arms, which are these metal arms that come out that I could put cameras on. I've got podcast microphone on another one, and there's multiple ones for different things. And I just use this metal piece. I think it comes from a long door handle or something like that, and I just clamp that on the end of it. And then I use some clips that you can see in the top here to clip the project to it. And there's one on the end as well, outside of video, that you can't see, supporting the other end. And what I have been doing, which I'm not really needing at the moment actually, I have a small clamp, this one here, just clamping this in place, but I forgot to add it. And it's allowing me to lean a bit further forwards actually, so I'm just going to leave it off, see how we go. Maybe attach it further towards the end, and I need a bit more stability. But whenever you're making anything like large like this, and you've got a lot of seams to do, there's a lot of hand stitching, always make sure that you try and get yourself as comfortable as possible. And that means taking time to get prepared, get a setup where everything's being held as reasonably still as possible, so that you can have an easier stitching experience. Sometimes you just rush into it and go, that setup will do, and then you have a really tough time stitching, and your back's killing you, and your arms are killing you, and your shoulders are gone. because you haven't taken the time to set yourself up correctly. So makes you slower in the long term, so you're not wasting time by just taking a few minutes, putting things together, putting a weight here, a clip there, to make life easier for yourself. Oops, are you getting that? Yeah. There we go. So on the other side, I am including a cast in this, and it's actually looking quite nice. Once I've done the end of the seam, I'll flip it over so you guys can see while I'm hammering down the stitches. Of course, you can dye the thread on the inside once you've stitched it to be the same color as the lining if you're not keen on the stitching, but I actually quite like it. So you want to make sure that if you do dye your thread on the inside to match the lining on a glue-in, which this is, you'll need to finish it with something like acrylic Resolene or something to hold the color. Otherwise, you know, if it got damp and you had a white t-shirt on the inside and it's against damp thread that's been dyed, probably not the greatest idea. But I actually like the look, so I'm going to leave mine. There we go. Halfway on this seam now. Have a little drink, a little sip. Bit of vodka for stitching, always good. I think I'd be stitching my hand if I did. Right, so coming up to the buckle soon, where we'll do our little buckle dance. Let's get a bit more light on here. So let's see what I'm doing. Now it's coming to the end actually. It's getting a bit more wobbly, so I'm going to put this little clamp on there. Not too far, just enough. Doesn't move about. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Yeah, maybe not, move that up a bit. I have a weight on the other side as well. Doesn't seem to be doing much actually. So coming onto the turnover there, so the leather is starting to get a little thicker now. So it's a little bit harder to push through. This could do with being a bit higher. Move this so we can flip this around. What I might do is actually just make all the holes now. That way I can put this down. pass this through. Trouble is, on the black chrome tanned leather, you can't see the slits created by the awl, or even indeed the pricking iron. Kind of just have to feel for them. Or use your right needle just to go in the hole first to see where it is, and then chase it with the left. Similarly to the way you would do with an awl. So now to back stitch, I need my round awl so as not to cut our thread. Pass it back through. And one final third back stitch. I'll show you guys what this looks like now. Let me just get this last stitch in place. Where are you? There you are. Yeah, pull those in tight. Snippy snip. There we are. Right, let's get that clamp off and move everything out the way. Okay, so that's what I've been stitching in, these two pieces here. And on the rear side, on the inside, you can see the internal stitching. So these are what I've been working on at the moment. So that is in fact what you would see on the inside of the bag, okay, which is unusual. It's not often that you see that. But I get asked a lot about, you know, what do you prefer? What's the pros and cons to a glue-in lining versus a loose lining, which is generally a lining that's glued around the edges. The lining is glued around the edges to the exterior and stitched in, so the lining is actually loose. So you could put an internal pocket on the inside of the lining, whereas you couldn't with this one. You would have to have an add-on pocket, but you can use the Chicago screws, these things on the inside, for that same reason. So you could create an exterior pocket that could be removable, for example, but it makes construction a little bit simpler. And for something like this, for you know, working with fabric, which this is wool, it's very tough, hard-wearing wool, it has to be glued to something. So in this case, we're gluing it to the lining. Sometimes it could be glued to bonded fiberboard. It could be glued to another type of material for reinforcement, Decaville, something like that. All sorts of different things that you can add it to. But in this one, we're attaching it to the lining, which is chrome tan leather, which is going to give a bit more weatherproofness. I wonder what that was on my arm. It's somebody's little logo for their avatar. That's funny. So what's on my arm? Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for lurking today, and make sure you turn on your notifications. There's going to be a lot more lives coming up. So if you're interested in bag making, you want to see how this progresses, don't forget to turn on your notifications so you know where I'm going live. And if you're interested in hand stitching, which I'm doing a lot of, don't forget there is a hand stitching tutorial which is free on my website. Just go there, enter your email address, and I'll send it right to you. In the meantime, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next live. Take care.